Alright, welcome to the Autumn Championship Group B FFA stream. I'm philothanic here with Blues, casting a match between Hexapus, AdmiralGeneral, Elmin, and twodback. What do you think about this map, Blues?
Right now what I'm noticing is double price power and a power colony.
Yes.
Besides that, there's this double high carbon up there that will be interesting.
Yes, there's double high carbon on the upper right, a bunch of iron by itself in the south.
Yeah, I can't see anyone working with that in the southeast.
Most of the aluminum down in the
A scavenger
south.
HQ has been founded.
There goes that double
An
carbon.
expansive HQ has been founded. A scavenger HQ has been
founded. Those are the three
founded.
spots that seem to make sense. So,
yes.
Not sure where Hexapus is going to end up.
No, it would seem that Hexapus has his luck cut out for him. The last spot. That'll be some long distance shipping for iron.
Yeah, he might have some pretty serious problems. He's already grabbing the high all the way out there. It's going to take him a long time to move forward.
AdmiralGeneral takes...
A scavenger HQ has been upgraded.
Upgrade.
No big surprise. Great carbon.
The black market is
I'll
online.
be interested to see what he decides to go in for his next step.
I think I'd like to see some ice, personally. He's going for the high water out there, which is fine. It's a bit more efficient, but
the
ice is nice for no power cost and just
no shipping. Looking quickly at our other two players, twodback, shipping decently far for his aluminum, but not terrible. And Elmin's going with 1 iron, 2 steel.
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
Start there, claiming double aluminum.
Right I am concerned about this silicon claim from AdmiralGeneral. It's not a major...
A scavenger HQ has been upgraded.
In the moment, I don't think, with glass being somewhat under control, and it's only ever going to be... Okay, it's a wind turbine. That makes more sense.
Yeah, wind turbine, making sure that he can keep it as an option in the future. And then also, no, that's... Hexapus went for the geothermal vent.
Are these going to be wind turbines from? Yes, twodback also going for 2 wind turbines, so people are taking notice of this power colony and trying to react to it.
140.
Yeah.
150 price, so that'll start dropping soon with all this power going up.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about Hexapus claiming 2 geotherms. He might not get those up in time to actually get anything done.
Yeah, those are expensive.
A scavenger HQ has been upgraded.
Have a lot of aluminum or steel right now, or cash. Part of that's because he is building the one.
Right. In the meantime, AdmiralGeneral has been getting a lot of this double water pump. It's the move I'd be concerned about, but no one really moved too heavily into water besides him. Hexapus made some, but he was able to make a lot of money and get to 3 pretty easily.
A new claim is available for auction.
Okay. Just trying to figure out which of my number keys Admiral is on so I can switch to him.
I don't think those stay consistent at all anymore.
No, they don't. Hopefully they'll get fixed soon. Extra claim for 12,000. That seems reasonable. Others might want to bid it up just a little bit.
Yeah, that definitely seems cheap, especially this early on. What's it going to get used on?
Even with that leaves AdmiralGeneral with 48,000 in debt, but still 12,000 for an extra claim is a steal at this point.
Yep, he's moving into a bit more power with that.
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
Okay, now he's getting
2 water claims that are getting pirated right now by Elmin.
Let this be a lesson to you all.
I am a bit concerned.
Screw with us, and we'll screw with you.
AdmiralGeneral laid out all his claims: 2 aluminum, 2 wind, and this 1 silicon, and now he's left with only 1 little reactor there. There's a lot of money to be made there that, I don't know, maybe he doesn't need to take the silicon.
Pirates. I hate those filthy bandits. A scavenger HQ has been upgraded.
twodback, up the level 3, and we have some more hostile black market action with the power being shut down.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the choice of target from Hexapus. I mean, yeah, twodback is making power money right now, and he has much stronger power online.
Right.
Not too concerned.
twodback finds himself in a decent spot. He has no debt, 18,000
The black market is open for business.
Moving into food, and is he the only one into food right now? I think so.
4 farms.
4 farms, the only one in food at the moment. So for the medium term,
an expansive
short term
HQ
anyway,
has been
seems to be
upgraded.
set at the moment.
Right. The one thing I'd worry about is that screams for an EMP, but no one's really doing that.
It does scream for an EMP.
One nice thing about these remote wind turbines, they can easily become isolator, so it's not as big a deal having them committed
Pirates.
Out there.
I hate those filthy bandits.
So, I mean, there still are closer spots that might have been worth considering for that wind.
Elmin's joining in on the electrolysis reactors. The price of that is still pretty high.
A scavenger HQ has been upgraded.
In them, it's going okay. Well,
we have a hard-to-come-by land claim available to the highest bidder.
Has been upgraded.
Out of everyone, basically. Are we really? Okay. It's concerned they're going to let AdmiralGeneral get another really cheap claim.
Hopefully not. The screen's going to go wonky for a little. I'm going to try and turn blues up just a little bit here. Here and better. Alright, hopefully that works out better.
It is interesting to me to see how many of these players are just taking the single silicon quarries, single lows that aren't really going to sustain your production, but going for the
congratulations
long term. Maybe they don't get punished for it and it ends up all right.
Yeah, maybe.
Because there is definitely a silicon deficit on the map that someone could look to exploit.
The black market is online.
Silicon deficit on the map, and sometimes if you don't grab those basic resources, you find yourself in trouble. I had a game recently where I grabbed some silicon, forgot to do it, it was too late, couldn't grab it anymore, and I lost a lot. In part because of that, so it doesn't surprise me that they are being a bit cautious.
AdmiralGeneral also using a mule to help out with the silicon situation. Not sure about that decision with much higher impact tools available. This EMP, again, on this farm cluster would be
great.
All sorts of good.
Pirates. I hate those filthy bandits.
Prices are relatively high across the board except for power.
A scavenger HQ has
been
upgraded.
Everyone committed early to power, reacting to the colony, and
nobody has moved out of power yet.
Well, everyone also went for the remote power that can't really easily be transitioned, so no big surprise there.
Elmin has 2 claims in carbon.
The black market is open for business.
Chemical refineries. Not sure what I think about that. It's 3 a second for carbon.
Right, certainly in the moment it's far too much carbon compared to what he needs, especially with 2 scavengers, but I guess there is the thing, if he only takes one,
an expansive HQ has been upgraded.
The second cutoff, so maybe it's worth committing there.
True. Putting down some solar condensers to...
Ooh, water really spiked.
Yes, I'm not Elmin didn't have enough to keep his water production.
Yeah, most players are relying on ice and consuming most of their water, so
HQ has been upgraded.
The whole nighttime thing kind of caused some problems.
6 water here from 2 vaccines, a little bit excessive to me.
I mean, It does. In the moment, it's fine. It doesn't cost all that much to put them down, and well, he did need to put some claims remotely anyway, just because of how he founded.
Yes, they could be switched out later. This is true. Meanwhile, looking at Admiral General again, he is, yes, I've selected him. He's got some decent split and some glass, a little bit of everything. Glass, electrolysis reactors. He has a patent lab that he is not using. Just won that auction for teleportation.
I'm actually surprised that the teleportation auction only went for 16k. Twodback in particular, he could really use that.
A dirty rat trying to break our stuff.
At 10k already, so maybe it's not a huge deal going forward. But just having all that stuff teleported in instead of having shipped so much would be a big deal. Combine that with him having very little debt and power being dead, I feel like that's that you can pretty easily take on and feel good about.
Not to mention, if he did that, he could transition these wind turbines, which are just sitting here earning $8, $7, into something more useful. Admiral General's patent lab gets blown up by Twodback.
He's trying to push towards thinking machines, which... Oh, Twodback's also going for it.
Don't get kindly to saboteurs and villains.
Unless something happens after this defended cooldown ends.
The black market is online.
2 scavengers, 2 expansives. That was a $296.
Optimization center is ready. Time to start improving everything.
So since the start, we haven't really talked much about Hexapus.
We haven't. He has just
sort of sitting here. He's seemed to have upgraded fine, despite that large shifting in iron. He's still running an iron deficit of -1 a second.
Right. He is still behind 1 HQ level. His debt isn't in great shape. That's in part because of this long shipping fuel costs. Even as an expansive, that's just very painful. And the power never really panned out. So he's just running behind. Meanwhile,
the black market is open for business.
No one seems to have noticed it yet. Well, not up, but almost up.
Right. Admiral General has 2 patent labs. He really wants to get some of these patents. What is he going for? Slant drilling. Oh wait, no, that was me misreading. It was the hologram as a patent lab.
At Offworld. Okay. This is an interesting little hacker array. Don't know if anyone who's going to be most comfortable using it.
Which one has a hacker array? I'm missing it.
This auction.
Oh, okay.
It is potentially a useful tile later because of the warehouse adjacency, but I guess you do have to be worried about the dynamite and the network virus being problems.
I guess this does answer the question on Discord of whether an auction hacker array is hologrammed. It is.
Yep.
So Elmin has a Offworld market.
Is online.
I haven't looked at Offworld prices. Offworld water's really high at 36k profit a launch.
Yeah, it's actually the highest price, which is unusual.
Fuel's
highest profit isn't that unusual, but highest price.
Right. Fuel's 29 profit.
Elmin manages to sneak in the dynamite before the goon lands on the Offworld for Admiral.
The patent lab is
that could be huge. They might be able to... No, he does have enough cash, but they can definitely put pressure on him.
On Admiral or Elmin?
On Admiral General, yeah. Because his Offworld was blown up, he wasn't bringing in much money quickly.
This Admiral's the only one who could be bought out right now, but he does have enough to defend himself, but a decent portion of that is tied up in this Offworld.
Yep. Elmin building up a lot of cash. Curious to see what he's going to do with it. I might have liked to see him pay down a bit of debt, get to that B rating instead of getting knocked down to D by this interest tick. But he's going for a second Offworld.
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
2 off-worlds with decent prices is definitely a good move if you're expecting the game to go in the long term. He did pay his debt up to C, so he's going to try and straddle that line between C and D debt throughout the rest of the game.
And at this point, there's no one really in a position to threaten to buy him out, so he can sort of make these moves and delay stuff that'll raise his stock price, which is pretty low considering.
Hexapus is in D debt right now.
He did manage to get up that off-world, so that could be useful for him.
He's also buying into his shares, perhaps before paying down some of his debt in the future, which would give him a nice defensive boost.
He's recovered a bit. I mean, he's still definitely, everyone's still definitely far behind Elmin, but
correct.
With the time it'll take to take him down, for Elmin to take someone else down, there's probably enough time for them to develop into threats.
Twodback has the financial instruments patent that has undoubtedly paid for itself already, multiple times over.
CCD.
Sold.
Take a quick look, actually. No interest tick since he got that patent yet, but
no recent development. Well, it should pay for itself in the first interest tick.
Yeah. Is anyone in electronics? No.
Elmin has 3 electronics factories that he is shipping to and from by supplying. So it's not the most efficient production, but I think he's the only one looking at that high electronics price right now.
Make room for the profits.
Curious to see if anyone will drop some pirates on it. Of course, the off-worlds always look like targets you want to be hitting, but this is a nice way to make some money.
Alright, so everyone's defending themselves. Well, the first attempt at a hostile takeover is Elmin buying into AdmiralGeneral.
Yeah, I figure he knows AdmiralGeneral has the off-world. He might not know about the other off-worlds, so this is a reasonable choice. Oh, and a second off-world going down now for AdmiralGeneral.
Just trying to pick 2 off-worlds. The second one is visible to everyone else, so and missed who got the dynamite on Admiral's other off-world. It was Elmin, so Elmin does know about both off-worlds, which makes his buy in AdmiralGeneral seems like a good solid strategy. Perhaps take out the most likely person to be a challenge to you early, since the other 2 don't seem to be in a position to challenge you right now.
Yeah. I mean, the second off-world did come down after Elmin started buying in, but there's not much else AdmiralGeneral can really do.
The off-world market is finished and
so this water is a little bit excessive. 4 high water pumps with slant drilling.
I mean, this does seem expensive. Water is only 57.
And we'll screw with you. New land is available for auction.
Select Admiral here. He has 4 of them right now, and he's floating 1,800 water sitting in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, with his teleportation, he could pretty easily just transition 2 of those into something else.
Perhaps electronics factory. Electronics is still quite high, almost at 400. And he does, AdmiralGeneral does have everything he needs for production, so he wouldn't be buying anything off the market.
The black market is online.
It's 309 for Elmin to finish the buy. He's 2/3 of the way there.
2/3 of the way there. Nobody else has bought into Elmin. I'm curious what you think about Hexapus buying into AdmiralGeneral instead of perhaps helping Elmin secure that takeout instead of a different move.
It's... I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. I mean, on the one hand, you are getting a small bit of income when AdmiralGeneral gets bought. You make it a slightly worse value for Elmin to finish off AdmiralGeneral, but you do save Elmin some money. I generally would just prefer to sit on my money, or, well, actually start buying into Elmin.
Right, right. The black market's finally being used a bit more now that people are buying into each other. AdmiralGeneral has used 2 EMPs on Elmin.
EMP is still pretty cheap at 14k.
And AdmiralGeneral is making a buy into Elmin. It seems too little too late at this point. Elmin has 337k and he only...
Honestly, AdmiralGeneral is just too far behind once that started. There wasn't much he could do. This is basically all he can do to try to get things going.
See, so Elmin has 256 cash on hand.
Successful Offworld shipment. Make room for the profits.
395. So I guess he's just waiting for his Offworld to launch before making his buy instead of selling out of resources.
Probably should be selling out of resources instead. Why does he have plus 15 water?
Screw with us, and we'll screw with
He
you.
has a lot, 6.
I mean, AdmiralGeneral should, I don't know, this water price shouldn't be nearly as high as it is.
No, people are floating a lot of water.
Right, and there wasn't really much reason for that. Everyone was producing large surpluses pretty much.
Right, both the Elmin and Hexapus have 6 solar condensers right now.
In the meantime, twodback was doing good work getting into Elmin before the buy, before his price would rise a lot. So he has a lot of stock in Elmin. Hexapus making things really awkward buying into twodback. I'm not sure I like that move at all. On the other hand, I'm not sure what else he can do.
Hexapus still feels to be the player in behind, so he doesn't have a lot of cash on hand. He's only sitting at cash and resources of 185k. There's really...
Launch affirmative. What a payout.
Perhaps he's betting that twodback will win the buy between Elmin, and that way Hexapus will be partway into twodback before that happens. That's
right. That seems to be the likely scenario, but like just investing all the money now kind of just draws the attention. You already see twodback dropping that EMP on Hexapus, where he might be focusing more on Elmin if the aggression hadn't started. And you could tell that there's still quite a bit of time before twodback could finish the buy on Elmin. So if you wait a bit longer, maybe you can get in there before attracting all that attention.
Look at all the money.
Let's see, Elmin is not choosing to auto-sell a lot of his resources that other people are in. Farms, food, oxygen, etc. I don't think that's because he's launching them, he's still launching water.
Right.
So this is one of those cases where it seemed to be better to have auto-sell, so that way other players aren't making those profits from you.
Definitely.
twodback is buying into both Hexapus and Elmin right now, which seems to me to be a mistake.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I'm pretty sure what happened was just he really wanted to take out Elmin, but he felt like his hand was forced by what Hexapus was doing. I'm not sure what his plan is going forward. Elmin is going to be a threat. He's halfway to the buy already.
Right, if he just sold out of Hexapus right now, that would put him...
Well, he'd be in a pretty bad spot after finishing the buy on Elmin if he sold out of Hexapus.
Correct, but I'm not sure what the other play would be. It's take out Elmin now and maybe take out Hexapus later, or get
right, I think
taken out by Elmin or Hexapus sooner.
I think he had to just ignore the attack from Hexapus and take out Elmin, because he was going to be spending that money sooner or later, but if he's finishing the buy now, then that helps him a lot more than delaying, and then not really getting any benefit in the meantime.
Launch affirmative. What a payout.
Hexapus has a 400k in the bank. He needs 530, say 540k to get the buy on twodback. Elmin has 700k in the bank and needs 800 to get the buy on twodback.
Right. Hexapus should actually be able to beat Elmin to the buy on twodback, and Elmin needs to be paying attention to that. He can't let that happen.
No, because then Hexapus will have half of Elmin's stock and will have fully defended himself.
He's really in a bit of a no-win situation. If he buys out Hexapus, then twodback is still in a great position against him. Of course, twodback selling out of Elmin really helps clarify the situation a bunch.
Okay.
I don't know about that one.
Elmin gets the buy on twodback.
I guess after the stock sells, twodback probably had more cash than Hexapus, but it's just very awkward.
Right.
Elmin can.
Now Hexapus has the overall cash advantage on Elmin with 600k after that last launch. Elmin only has 150k. Elmin's fast, rising fast. He's making 3k a second off of AdmiralGeneral right now.
Right, he might still be able to pull it out with that extra income, but it's going to be...
It is going to be very close. Meanwhile, the black market, while we were talking about stock buying strategies, has been flying fast and furious with dynamite up at 110k per dynamite, EMP at 70k. Each launch is only making 48k a second, so I'm not sure if
The
it's
repair...
70k dynamite makes sense for either player at this point. I'm sorry, not
I
dynamite.
mean, the
70K
repair itself
EMP.
costs around 30-ish, and then you're losing a full launch time, so that's more than 70k.
Well, the EMP is 70k, the dynamite's 110, I misstated.
Right. I was talking about the last dynamite that was bought.
Yes, the last dynamite at 70 does make sense.
Yeah, I have a very hard time justifying the 110 too.
Prepare for pending market adjustments.
Right now, it looks like Hexapus is going to win this race.
Seems like
coming back from behind the entire game, hopefully being ignored by most of the other players throughout.
Successful off-world shipment. Make room for the profits.
Does sometimes have its advantages.
right, and I did criticize Hexapus for making that move into twodback. Well, I guess it made... What that does do, sometimes you force players into an awkward position, then that maybe causes them to make a mistake that can let you back in.
Right.
If you just do the very conventional play, then that probably just gets you shut down.
And I think in this case, twodback splitting his buy into both Hexapus and Elmin was definitely a mistake.
Yeah,
Sticking into Elmin may still not have gotten him the win, but it was the better play than splitting, because splitting gets you nowhere.
Successful
Right, he spent far too much money
Make room for the profits.
at a point when he really needed the money.
Hexapus comes back for the victory.
Well, we see Hexapus ended up with the most money made off world. Benefit of not getting attacked, yeah.
No, Elmin was the first to go into Offworlds, which is why he made the second most amount. And I believe that that counter stops going up after you've been bought out.
Yeah, it does.
So Hexapus had several more launch cycles on Elmin. Let's see, looking at the balance sheet. If there's anything interesting of note, Hexapus sold the most resources out of anybody, 13k.
Almost 73K off of financial instruments.
73K from twodback.
Yeah, that is quite impressive.
That is quite the lucrative patent. I think at the time, at resource prices, chemicals were decently high, but it only cost them maybe 14 to 20K to buy that patent at tops. So that more than paid for itself.
It's definitely something that other players maybe weren't thinking about as much as they should have. Twodback also getting good stuff done with virtual reality. He didn't make the most off Pleasure Domes, but he was only using one claim as opposed to Hexapus's 2.
Right. Yeah, with the virtual reality and that one claim, he only made 90K less than Hexapus's 2 claims there.
This just comes down to that stock mistake.
Yeah, it would be a very different game if twodback had bought out Elmin and it was twodback versus Hexapus.
The other thing that might have been interesting was instead of Elmin getting aggressive right away, maybe playing a little more defensively, trying to shore up his stock price with paying off debt. I'm not sure whether or not that would have been the right answer, especially since AdmiralGeneral ended up being very lucrative. But there's another option.
At the time, it seemed like buying into AdmiralGeneral made a decent amount of sense because twodback and Hexapus didn't look super threatening, so if he could have quickly bought out AdmiralGeneral and got that income rolling earlier, but then he hesitated for a good while. I wonder if that hesitation there may have played into that because his stock price would have been higher. It would have been harder for twodback to buy into Elmin before he got the buy off, and then he would have earned more dividend revenue from AdmiralGeneral.
Right, and the other thing to maybe wonder about is if the second Offworld coming down from Elmin was a mistake at that point, because all the black market was so cheap, and he was pretty clearly the leader. That might have attracted a bit more problems than.
Right, if we go to the overview, it looks like Elmin may have been targeted the most. I can do math in my head really quick. Yes, Hexapus was 6, AdmiralGeneral 1. Sorry, Hexapus 6, AdmiralGeneral 5, and then twodback 4. So yeah, he did have a lot of aggression throughout the entire game.
Interestingly, not that many of the dynamites landed on him. Most of the dynamites landing on Elmin were quite late.
Quite late and quite expensive. But perhaps the players did not realize where his offworlds were. They were. The first one he built was very far away from his base.
Right, and that didn't get hit for a very long time.
Right, so that one I think remained hidden for quite a while. You can switch to Hexapus has a spy that is one tile to the left of seeing that offworld. And it doesn't look like anybody else had any spies to see that offworld. The first offworld that Elmin had constructed. I believe that we only had enough people for one game from the FFA Group B. I think this is the first and last game. If there's anything else you want to mention about the game,
Yeah, I'm just looking at production and sales, and if you go over to Hexapus and Glass, that kind of is a pretty big story that I didn't notice earlier.
No, almost 1 million in glass sold. Yes, I did mention that he was the leading in selling resources, but in the game I did not notice he was the only one in glass.
So he did make pretty good use out of that auctioned hacker array. Just pounding glass. No one else with the silicon to really counter that, except for AdmiralGeneral, but he was knocked out too early.
Right. twodback does not have silicon, and neither. Elmin had 2 silicon claims. He was getting 3 silicon a second. I think he used that for when he wasn't bought out. Used it for the electronics factory instead of the glass kiln.
Yeah, he made a lot of money off of. No, that's chems. Never mind.
Right, Elmin.
He only produced 145 silicon that game, so those must have come down very late.
Perhaps from his buy from AdmiralGeneral.
Perhaps, yeah.
Then optimizations. The only really notable thing I see here is Elmin has 0 optimizations and prices were relatively high the entire game.
Yeah, it definitely is the expansive. That's something you can't afford to do and normally will want to do. Twodback with quite a bit. Hexapus with a lot in glass. But not too much optimization from anyone.
No. With high prices, I like to see a little bit more optimization.